Welcome to Bible in the Backyard. Here we are in the book of Devarim, chapter 5, Perek Hey, at the beginning of Moshe's second discourse to the people. And in this chapter, we have a continuation of the theme of laws, as we saw in the last chapter. And one kind of highlight of this chapter is a repetition of the Ten Commandments, the Aseret HaDibrot, the Decalogue, repeating, obviously not verbatim, from what we saw in Exodus chapter 20. And there are substantial differences. Most of them are pretty minor, actually, but the greatest area of difference is with the repetition of the laws about Shabbat. Do you have anything to say about the discrepancies between what we see in Exodus and what we see now here in Deuteronomy?
I'll just share what the great commentator Avraham ibn Ezra in 12th century says. In his commentary on Exodus, at the beginning of Exodus 20, he has a really strikingly long essay. In standard printing of the Mikra Ukdalot, of a Jewish Bible, it runs for 3 or 4 pages, where that's his central question. Why are there differences between the Decalogue? Because Ibn Ezra actually won't call them Aseret HaDibrot, he calls it Aseret HaDvarim. But the differences in Exodus and in Deuteronomy. And his major theory is that Moses was paraphrasing here, that he is not trying to verbatim repeat it. And he actually has some very interesting things to say about he claims that no one ever tries to verbatim repeat things. Why should they? If you're going to repeat something, you should recast it for your present audience. It's unlikely that the first time it was said is the right way to say it now for the new audience. So his big theory is that Moses is recasting things, reformulating things for the new audience. And his argument is that the old law of Shabbat, the old formulation of the law of Shabbat back in Shemot, is not actually tailored to the new generation. The new generation didn't need to be reminded of that. They did need to be reminded of the Exodus, because they hadn't experienced it. So Moses took the opportunity to remind them that the Shabbat also commemorates the Exodus, and that's something that is new for this generation, but was not needed for the generation of the Exodus itself, who of course knew that very well. So he gives Moses actually a lot of leeway in formulating even things like the Decalogue, at least in the book of Devarim. That was something that we said in the first chapter, that this may well be called the book of the Torah of Moshe, because he's actually the author here.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. And in many ways, he's recasting laws in light of the people that are standing in front of him. And I think there is something to be said about kind of recognizing the people that you're teaching, the people that you're leading, and even something as objective as law can actually be, modified in a way that's subjective to the people that are sitting and learning in front of you.
Yeah. And certainly in this case where it's the justification for the law, so you have a lot of leeway to say, I have to figure out how the best way to explain this to my current audience is. And he's a good pedagogue, he's a good educator, and he thinks about who these people are. They're not the people he grew up with, it's the young people, and they need something else than the older people needed 40 years ago.
Great, thank you.